Hey there, fellow Angular developers. Are you ready to unleash the power of arrays in your Angular applications? In this tutorial, we will dive into the world of arrays and explore how they can revolutionize the way you handle data in your projects. But first, let's start with the basics. What exactly are arrays and why are they essential in Angular development? Arrays are a fundamental data structure in programming and they play a crucial role in Angular. Simply put, an array is an ordered collection of elements where each element can be any data type such as numbers, strings, objects, or even other arrays. In Angular, arrays are used extensively to store, manipulate, and display data efficiently. Now you might be wondering, why should I care about mastering arrays in Angular? Well, let me tell you, it can make a world of difference in your development workflow. By having a solid understanding of arrays and their various operations, you will be able to easily manage and organize data in your Angular components, dynamically display lists of items in your templates, perform complex data transformations, and filtering with just a few lines of code. Create more efficient and optimized Angular applications. Impress your colleagues and friends with your array manipulation skills. Okay, maybe not this one, but you get the point. Throughout this tutorial, we will explore the different aspects of working with arrays in Angular, from basic array declaration and initialization to advanced array methods and operations. We have got you covered. We will also dive into practical examples and demonstrations to solidify your understanding and show you how to apply these concepts in real-world scenarios. So whether you are a beginner just starting with Angular or an experienced developer looking to level up your skills, this tutorial is perfect for you. Get ready to embark on an exciting journey through the world of arrays in Angular. Let's get started and unlock the full potential of arrays in your Angular applications. Trust me, your code will thank you for it. Great. Let's dive into the main points of working with arrays in Angular. Let's start from understanding arrays in Angular. Arrays are ordered collections of elements that can store multiple values of the same or different types. In Angular, arrays are commonly used to hold and manage data within components. In Angular, you typically use TypeScript to declare and initialize arrays. So this is an example where you can see I have defined a numbers variable with the type number array that has an array of numbers. Also, I defined another variable with the name fruits that has the type of string array. And you can see it is storing an array of strings. So this is how you will initialize arrays in TypeScript. In JavaScript, you cannot do this. Accessing arrays elements using index. You can access individual elements of an array using their index, which starts from 0. For example, here I am accessing the element from the numbers array from the 0 index and saving it in another variable. So here I am accessing the number from the 0 index and saving it in another variable, and in the second line I am accessing the fruit from the 1 index, and that would be banana in this case, and I'm saving it in the variable. Next we will talk about the length property and its usage. The length property returns the number of elements in an array. It's useful for iterating over arrays or checking their size. For example, here I am saving the length of the numbers, that is 5 in this case, and I am using for loop to iterate over this array, and I am showing the every number in the console log by using this syntax. Next one is manipulating arrays. I will show you how to add elements to an array. For that, we will use the push method that adds one or more elements to the end of an array. So this is the example. You can see I am pushing the 6 in the numbers array, and this would be the resulted array that you will see after pushing it. Next one is unshift. So this This function adds one or more elements to the beginning of an array. As you can see that I called the function unshift with a mango and it was appended in that array. Next, let's talk about the spread operator that allows you to spread the elements of an array into another array or function argument. So for example, I created a new variable and I created an array, and within that I added some additional elements and then I used the spread operator on the numbers variable, and this is my final result after doing that. Next, we will look at removing elements from array. To remove elements from array, we use the pop function that removes the last element from an array and returns it. So for example, this is an example code where I am calling the pop function that will remove the last element, that is. So for example, I am using the pop function on the numbers and that will remove the last number 6 from that array and it will save that 6 in this variable. Next one is the shift function. So shift function removes the first element from an array and returns it. So for example, I used the shift function on the fruits array and it removes the mango and it saved that in the custom variable. Next one is splice function. So the splice function removes or replaces elements from an array at a specified index. Like you can see here, I use the splice function on the fruits array and it removes the one element starting from the index 1. Next, we will look at how to modify elements in array. So one method is index assignment. You can directly assign a new value to an array element using its index. So if you look at this example, I am replacing the first element of the numbers array with the digit or number 10. Next one is splice function. You can also use the splice to modify elements by specifying the index, number of elements to remove and the new elements to add. So for example, you can see here I am using splice function on the fruits and specified 1, 1 and grape. So that basically replaces one element at the index 1 with grapes. Next, we will look at how to iterate over arrays using the for directive in Angular templates. So in Angular templates, you can use for directive to iterate over arrays and display their elements. So for example, let me copy this array and take it in the Angular. Here in Angular component, you don't need to use the let keyword here. So just define the variable. And now let's go to the app.html and here you will add the UL tag and you will add the for. This is the latest syntax to use the for loop, and within that you will add fruit of fruits and track fruit. Okay, now within that you will add the list tag and show the fruit. Now let's go back to the Angular app and you can see that the data is visible. Next, we will talk about the array methods and operations. So first one is searching elements. First, there are several functions to search elements. So for example, first one is includes. So for example, here you can see I'm using the includes function. This include function checks if an array includes a specific element and returns true or false. So in this case, it will return true because apple exists in that array. Next function is index of, that returns the first index at which a given element is found in an array, or -1 if it is not present. So for example, let me add let index is equal to this, and now it will give me the index 1 because the banana is on the first index. But if it is not found, for example, if I add any random string, then it will give me -1 in this way. Next function is the find function that returns the first element in an array that satisfies a provided testing function or undefined if not found. So for example, this is the find function I'm using here on the fruits array. So it will iterate over every element of the array, and on every iteration it will check. If fruit starts with O, then it will return that specific element. Okay, and even if there are multiple elements in that array that starts with the O, it will just return you the first one. So for example, I specified O, then it will find and return the orange and save it in the found fruit variable. Next, we will talk about how to transform arrays. To transform arrays, we mostly use the map function that creates a new array with the results of calling a provided function on every element in the array. So for example, we have the numbers array, and here I have created a variable doubled number, and this .numbers.map function is being used on that array. So on every iteration, on every element, it will take that specific number and multiply it with the 2. So earlier this was the array 1 2 3 4 5, and if you multiply it, then it becomes 2 4 6 8 10. Next, let's talk about the filter function that creates a new array with all elements that pass the test implemented by the provided function. So for example, I am picking the even numbers from this numbers array. So I use the filter function. So it will go to every element one by one, and it will check. So this is the result we are returning. So if it is true, then it will consider those elements which are true. So here I am getting the modulus of 2. If it is equal to 0, then that's mean that is the even number. So there are only 2 even numbers. So that gave me an array of 2 numbers here. Next, let's talk about the reduce function. So reduce function applies a reducer function to each element of an array, resulting in a single output value. So for example, here I'm using the numbers array and using the reduce function on that array, and it will go to every element one by one, and this callback function will receive 2 arguments, a cumulative number and the current number in that iteration. So we will take the accumulated number plus number that will add it, and it will keep doing that until it reaches to the last element of the array, and the final number is 15. That is the output that it will return. Next, we will talk about the sorting arrays. The sort function sorts the element of an array in place and returns the sorted array. So for example, I used the sort function on the numbers. So if it is not in proper order, then it will order it, but it was already in the right order, so that's why the output would be same. So if you, for example, make changes here 5 4 or 5 3 4, okay, whatever, but if you use the sort function on it, it will sort it and show you in the proper order. Next, we will talk about the custom comparison functions. You can provide a custom comparison function to sort for more complex sorting logic. So for example, here in the case of the fruits array, I used the sort function, but this time I gave it a callback function. So in that callback function, I will have my own custom implementation for the sorting logic. And here I will be getting the 2 parameters A and B. So these will be the elements of the array, and we will use the a.localCompare that is available on a string. So I will pass the B, and with that it will sort it. So for example, if I change the order in random, right now it is apple, orange, banana, A, O, B, but it has sorted it, and now we have the correct order A, B, and O. Okay. Next, we will talk about slicing and concatenating arrays. So for that, we have one function, slice, that returns a shallow copy of a portion of an array into a new array object. So for example, we have a variable slice numbers, and we are using slice function on the numbers. I have passed 1 and 4. That's mean it will give you result 2 3 4, but it will skip the number 1. Next we have the concat function that basically concatenates one or more arrays and returns a new array. So for example, here you can see that I am using the concat function on the numbers, and I have passed the this dot fruits to this function, and that will return me a new array in the combined arrays variable. And this is the new array. This is how it will look like. Okay, but the problem is that we have an error because we are in Angular, and Angular is using TypeScript. So this is because of the mismatch of the type. Either you can add any here, or you can typecast this one as well as any. Okay, this will get rid of the error. Now if you want to show that in the browser, just simply use the data, and you can assign that data. You can assign the combined array to the data variable. And now let's go back to the HTML just to show you. Here I will use the data item, save it. Okay, you can see it has concatenated the array. Next we will talk about passing arrays as inputs to child component using the input decorator. You can pass arrays as inputs to child component using the input decorator. So to demonstrate that, I need to create a child component. So let's go to the new tab, and here I will generate nggen c for component and child. Okay, the child component has been generated, and within that I will define my input. Make sure to import it from the Angular core, and here I will add items string array and give it a default empty array. Now let's go to the HTML here. So this is going to look same like we have on the app component, so I am going to copy the same code from there and paste it here. Okay, and here it is going to be items. All right, now it's time to use it in the parent, that is app component. So I'm just going to get rid of that, save it, and you can see that it has gone. Now instead of that, I will use the child component, but before using it we need to import the child component in the imports array of the app component, like that, and now you are able to use it. Okay, now we need to pass. So by default you can see child works is visible, but there is no array because it is using the empty default array, but we want to pass our data. So here I will pass the data element, data array, and you can see this data is being shown from the child component now. Next we will talk about emitting array changes from child components using the output and event emitter. Child components can emit events to notify the parent component about the changes in the array. So let me show you a quick example. So let's go back to the child component.ts, and here I will define the output in this way, and here I will use the name of variable item, added is equal to new event emitter. Make sure to import it from the Angular core, and now I will define a function add item. Okay, now let's go to the HTML file of this, and here I will add a button. Okay, and on button I have added the click event, and here I will pass the text for the item, new item, save it. Okay, now we have a button. If I click on that, nothing would happen. So now we will make it functional. So let's go back to the parent HTML, and here I will listen to that event that we emitted. So here I will add item added, and I will call a function on item added event. I will define this function now. So here let's define it. Okay, so I received the item from the parameter, and I am pushing that item in the data array, and once that is done we are ready to test it. So now if you click on that, the new item has been appended to our array, and you can keep adding more and more. These are the main points and examples of working with arrays in Angular. Understanding and utilizing these concepts will enable you to effectively manage and manipulate data in your Angular applications. Remember to practice and experiment with these array operations and techniques to solidify your understanding. So don't hesitate to refer to the official Angular documentation and explore additional resources to deepen your knowledge of arrays in Angular. Now let's implement a search functionality using the array methods like filter, and you show it in the Angular. So here in the app component, I'm going to define some new variables like search term is equal to empty by default, and filtered items. Okay. Now I will define another function here, filter items, and within that we will have our logic. This dot filtered items is equal to this dot data dot filter, and here we will pass our callback function. Within that we will use every item to call function to lower case dot includes and this. Okay, so here you can see I have used the filter function, and now it is updating the filtered items array. So let's quickly test it. Now I will use the filtered items variable here to pass in the child like this, and now you will notice that there is no element because we did not filter anything yet. So you can do another thing here. You can check if search term is empty, then show all, otherwise show the filtered items. Okay, so now you will see the data. Now I will add the search input. Okay, this is the input search, and now here I will add the change event on this input. So whenever you make a change, it will call a function that we defined, that is the filter items, and I will not pass anything, but before that I need to two-way bind the search term with this input, so that whenever you type it will be updated, and whenever it will be updated we will have the access to that variable in the filter items, and we will use it to filter it. So but before using the ng model, make sure that you have imported the forms module, otherwise it will not work. Okay, now let's search it. Here I will add apple. That did not work, so let's see what's wrong here. So we are facing some errors as well here. So when I type something, as there are numbers as well in that array, that's why the to lowercase function does not exist on number. So to fix that problem, I will use the string function to convert the number into the string. Okay, now let's search. Okay, you can see it is working, but it works only when you blur out of the input. So we can improve that as well. So for that, go back to the HTML, and here instead of the change event, I will use key up event, and then we will call the filter items function on every keystroke. Okay, so you can see that it is now working. So let me quickly go through this, what we have done. So in this example, we have an input field bound to the search term property using two-way data binding. When the user types in the input field, the filter item method is triggered. Inside this method, we use the filter array method to create a new array, filtered items, that contains only the items that match the search term. The filtered items are then displayed in the template. Next, we will look at the sorting an array based on the user input or selection. So for that, you can go to the child element if you want to. And here I will define two properties, sort order and sorted items. By default, I have set the order ascending. Now I will define a function here, sort items. So here we have an error of the type. So for now, I will add any here to get rid of this error. And now let's go to the HTML of this child, and here on the top I will add the select tag, but we have to import the forms module in order to use the ng model. So let's do that. Okay, and let me move it on the top here. Okay, this is how it is looking right now. We have ascending and descending. Right now these are not working, but in order to make them work in the HTML, you can use the sorted items instead. Okay, in the beginning it will not show anything. In order to fix that, we can create a constructor and sort it immediately when the component is created. So here I will call the this.sort item. It will immediately sort it and save the data in it. So maybe at that time the data was not available. To double check, I will alert the item's length, save it. You can see at that time the length was 0. That's why it did not work. So in order to fix that, we have to use some kind of hook. Like here I can implement after view init, and here I can create that function ng after view init, save it. So this time we have the length and it is working. Let's remove the alert. So right now it is in the ascending order. If I change it, the order would be changed as you can see. So this would work only for the numbers, not for the string. Okay, I have updated the logic. So now earlier it was considering only numbers, but now I have considered the string as well. So if it is string, then it will use a little bit different approach. But if it is number, then it will use the original approach that we had earlier. So now you can see this is ascending order A, B, O. And if you use a descending, then it will use 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 and O, B, A. So this is the descending order now. So in this example, we have a drop down select bound to the sort order property. When the user selects an option, the sort items function is called. Inside this method, we create a new array sorted items by spreading the original items array, and then apply the sort method based on the selected sort order. The sorted items are then displayed in the template. So these demonstrations and walkthroughs cover various scenarios of working with arrays in Angular components and templates. So they showcase how to create and initialize arrays, display array elements, implement search and sort functionalities, pass arrays between components, and emit array changes from child to parent components. Incorrectly using equality comparison with arrays. When comparing arrays, using the strict equality operator compares the references rather than the contents of the array. So this can lead to unexpected results. So instead, compare arrays based on their contents using methods like json.stringify or by iterating over the elements. For example, these are two arrays. So if you compare in this way, by looking at the arrays, it looks like these are equal. But if you use a triple equal, and it will give you the false. So this is incorrect way to compare array references. And this is a correct way where you are stringify both arrays and then comparing it. So in this way, it will give you the true output. Next mistake is not handling empty or undefined arrays properly. When working with the arrays, it's important to handle cases where the array may be empty or undefined. Failing to do so can result in errors or unexpected behavior. Always check for the existence and length of an array before performing operations on it. Use conditional statements or the safe navigation operator, that is dot, to avoid accessing properties of undefined arrays. For example, this is a code of what I was talking about. I have defined an items array, that is array of string or undefined. So this is the incorrect way to access properties of an undefined array. So for example, if it is not defined yet, then this will throw an error because you're accessing items.undefined, that item.length, that means undefined.length. That is not allowed. But this is the correct way to checking for array existence in existence and length. So you just use item dot length, and here we are saying that if item is found, then use its length. Otherwise, display the 0 or pass the 0 to the console.log. Next mistake is mutating arrays unintentionally with the methods like sort, reverse. Some array methods such as sort and reverse mutate the original array. If you are not careful, you might unintentionally modify the original array when using these methods. To avoid mutating the original array, create a new array instead before applying these methods. So use the spread operator or slice to create a copy of the array. For example, here I have created an array with the value 312, and this is the incorrect way to mutate the original array. You will use a sort and it will update the original array, and you might not want that. Okay, and this is the correct way. You will create a new array instance before sorting it, and I am spreading the original array, and then I am using sort on the new array. So in this way, it will create a new array, but it will not affect the original array. By being aware of these common mistakes and pitfalls, you can write more reliable and maintainable code when working with arrays in Angular. Always strive for immutability, use appropriate comparison techniques, handle empty or undefined arrays gracefully, and be cautious when using methods that mutate arrays. Remember, practice and experience will help you to identify and avoid these mistakes more easily over time. Don't hesitate to refer to the Angular documentation and best practices to ensure you are following the recommended guidelines when working with the arrays in your Angular applications. Congratulations on making it to the end of this tutorial on arrays in Angular. Let's recap the main points we have covered and provide some final thoughts and resources. Throughout this tutorial, we have explored the fundamental concepts and techniques for working with arrays in Angular. We started by understanding the basics of arrays, including their definition, declaration, and initialization in TypeScript. We learned how to access array elements using indices and how to determine the length of an array. Next, we delved into manipulating arrays using various methods. We covered adding elements to an array using push, unshift, and the spread operator. We also learned how to remove elements using pop, shift, and splice, and how to modify the elements using index, assignment, and splice function. Additionally, we explored iterating over arrays using the for directive in Angular template, and then explored array methods and operations such as searching for elements using the includes, index of, and find function, transforming arrays using map, filter, and reduce functions, sorting arrays with sort and custom comparison functions, and slicing, concatenating arrays using slice and concat function. Moving on to working with arrays in Angular components, we covered displaying arrays in templates using for directive, passing arrays as inputs to child component using the input decorator, emitting array changes from the child component using the output and event emitter, and updating arrays in response to user actions or events. We also discussed common mistakes and pitfalls to watch out for when working with arrays in Angular, such as modifying arrays directly instead of creating new instances, incorrectly using equality comparison with arrays, not handling empty or undefined arrays properly, and mutating arrays unintentionally with methods like sort and reverse. As you continue to your Angular journey, I encourage you to practice and experiment with arrays in your projects. Apply the concepts and techniques covered in this tutorial to real-world scenarios and explore how arrays can be leveraged to solve various programming challenges. To further deepen your understanding of arrays in Angular, you should visit the Angular documentation or JavaScript documentation as well. Remember, the best way to solidify your understanding of arrays in Angular is through hands-on practice. So take on coding challenge, build small projects, and experiment with different array methods and techniques. Don't be afraid to explore and make mistakes. If you have any further questions or need additional guidance, feel free to reach out to the Angular community, participate in forums and discussion groups, and engage with fellow developers. The Angular community is vast and supportive, and there is always someone willing to help. Thank you for joining me on this tutorial on arrays in Angular. I hope you found it informative and valuable. Keep coding, keep learning, and most importantly, have fun with Angular. By the way, please don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel and click on the bell icon, and also please like and share this video. Again, thanks for watching. See you next time. Goodbye.